premier family conferences held each year with international and national speakers and political leaders. Hosted by Family First New Zealand, the forum brings together a national network of family-focused organisations, scholars, lobby groups, church leaders and community groups who are part of a growing movement to bring New Zealand to a point where families are strengthened, marriage is honoured, life is protected and religious freedom is defended. This year's conference will again be held at the Dewdrop Event Centre in Manukau City, not too far from the Auckland Airport, on Thursday 28th of August and Friday 29th of August. Yes, because of demand, we're starting the conference earlier with 3 important sessions and a time of networking on the Thursday evening, and then a full-day program all day Friday. This year's theme is Courage at a Cultural Tipping Point. The culture is slowly but surely waking up to the harmful effects of the radical left-wing agenda and the destruction of family values that we all hold dear. Some countries have even figured out how to define a woman. And at this year's conference, once again, we have an amazing lineup of brave speakers from the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Dr. Miriam Grossman last spoke at our forum in 2012. You may also recognise her from the recent Daily Wire documentary, What is a Woman? But more recently, she's released an important book on the transgender agenda. I'll be doing a live interview with Dr. Grossman from New York, where she is based. Jeff Johnson is an issues analyst for Focus on the Family in the United States. We're also very excited to have Dawn Hawkins discussing the issue of pornography and sexual exploitation. From Canada, we have Amanda Achtman bringing us a warning about the slippery slope of euthanasia. From Australia, we have Kirralie Smith, a wife, a mother, and an activist for biology and truth, but who is paying the price for speaking up. And for the first time in New Zealand, you will get to hear their side of the story. Israel and Maria Folau. Now we're hoping that they'll be able to attend in person. They're keen to be here, but it does depend on Israel's rugby schedule in Japan. But either way, we'll get to hear from them personally and not via the hostile mainstream media. And finally, we're hosting and recording a special episode of Straight Talk before a live audience at the conference. It'll be a lively discussion and you can be part of that live audience. I want to invite you to this year's Forum on the Family. It starts Thursday night, 28th, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and then all day Friday, 29th from 8:45 a.m. through to 4:30 p.m. It's the highlight of the year and you don't want to miss it. Arrange to be there. Book your flights today. Gather your friends. If you're concerned for our culture, our country and our families, you may be saying, what can I do? Well, step 1, attend the Forum on the Family. Have your spine stiffened by some fabulous speakers who will encourage, equip and inspire you. Now, the last couple of years have been sellouts, so don't delay. Go to our website, forumonthefamily.nz, for all the information you need. Register today. Don't miss this important family conference. Go to forumonthefamily.nz. Register today.
Good morning, wonderful people. I'm seeing comments coming in. I'll get those on the screen at the moment, but welcome to Solid Ground. I think actually this is my 59th episode. I sort of lose track. I'm hopeless on numbers. Don't get me to do the shopping and tell you at the end how much the bill was. I'm just hopeless at adding things up. I stick to words. But look, good morning to what I believe, as I say, the 59th episode of Solid Ground, where I talk about the issues of the day, things that are catching my attention, from a good perspective, a solid ground, if you will, certainly a conservative perspective, one that's philosophically and ethically and politically, I'd like to argue, grounded. But this is a live show coming to you live, which means that you're viewing this on an array of platforms. But if you're on Family First Facebook page or their YouTube channel, your comments come to me live here. So if you've got comments, thoughts, and questions as the show goes on, because I can divert in a heartbeat from whatever I'm talking about. If you've got a question about something that's happening for you or in the community or around the world, and you want me to have a little bit of a say on that, let me know. But just to demonstrate, because I just love this, a wonderful crew, not just around New Zealand, but around the world. So we've got lovely Catherine, good morning. It is cold here as well. Do not be fooled by Simon. He puts his arms up wearing a t-shirt. It's freezing cold. But fortunately, I've got a little heater on and I think I can survive. Morning, Lynette. Lovely to have you here. Rabbit Hole, lovely. Lovely to have you here too. Jeffrey, good morning. I'm loving this. Anne-Marie, a proud trad wife in Whanganui there. Wonderful. I don't know if it's a thing. You've never heard about trad husbands. I'm not sure we want to start that per se, but isn't it funny? There's always these obsessions with the female side of things. But lovely to have you along here, Anna-Marie. Sorry, Anna-Marie, not Anne-Marie. Anna-Marie, now I've read it properly. Good morning to you, Darren. Lovely to have you here. Oh, we've got Invercargill, the Muddy Waters. Lovely to have you here. Harrison, I know young Harrison. Lovely to have you along. Hope you're not too busy, but looking forward to this long weekend. To Peter, lovely to have you here too. Rosie, we're actually going to be driving through Taupo in a couple of days. We're taking, Rachel and I, taking our foster child down the line. So as I zoom through Taupo, I'll wave. One of my wonderful but smart-assed, there we go, I've sworn already and it's not even 7:40 in the morning, been smart. Yes, I am wearing a t-shirt, but I can't show you off camera. There's a lovely little heater next to me. Susan, lovely to have you along. Susan is a name you might be familiar with. She's sometimes on our Straight Talk panel, which is fantastic. Chrissy, lovely to have you here. And there we go. Simply Green's already answered my trad husband question. So look, thank you guys. Look, lovely to have you here. I will signal this morning's a bit of a heavy morning in terms of ethical topics. I'm sad to say in the pro-life space things are going backwards quite fast, particularly overseas. In some ways things can't go any backwards any further. Here in New Zealand things are already bad. So I just want to signal that there is some good news amongst it, but I just thought that's a bit of a theme that's popped up today. And it's funny how it happens because I just keep an eye on the news. I just keep an eye on the news each day, and I just load things into the studio here. And it's funny, sometimes it's an eclectic mix of topics, sometimes really positive, sometimes, not so encouraging. And then like this morning, I just looked at what I had. It was just one story after another. But anyway, I thought I would start, though, with this, because this really got my goat, if you will, as a former politician. This is a headline, I think, from the New Zealand Herald, asking whether Tory Whanau, so she's the mayor of Wellington, because of her experience, is it putting women off running for the mayor? I think the thing we need to realise is that Tory Whanau's failure as a mayor, nothing to do with her being a woman, nothing to do with her being a Māori, nothing to do with her being a Māori woman. The failure of Tory in Wellington, and I'm a ratepayer down there, so I follow these things relatively closely. The failure was that she was a failure. She was not succeeding, she wasn't getting things right, she was flipping when it came to major issues. It was confused, and then obviously in a personal life things were not going well at all. And undoubtedly the stress of the job plays into that, but I would argue it probably just exacerbates what is. So when media and her and others keep trying to turn this into an identity politics issue, oh she's a Māori, oh she's a woman, don't buy it. Don't buy it at all. And that includes if you are actually a young woman here, for example, wanting to get into politics. It's a great thing to do. Being a woman is a great advantage, as is being a man. What's going to make you a great politician is capability. And that's what the mainstream media, and certainly Tory and some of her commentary, seems to miss out. So I just repeat what I said at the start. Her failures, her problems as a mayor have nothing to do with being a woman, or a Maori woman at that, or a young Maori woman, or a young Maori woman in the Green Party or associated with the Greens. Actually, that last part, being part of the Greens, is probably part of it, one of the key reasons why she failed. Anyway, that just caught my eye. And actually, Rusty's got a very good... Well, you never know. I mean, look, this is just the absurdity of when identity politics gets inserted into just general life. Everything is reduced down. As we know, I've sort of talked about this before, everything gets reduced down to who you are rather than how you're acting. And if, like me, you buy into what they call virtue ethics, in fact, one of the great virtue ethicists, his name was Alistair McIntyre, actually just died a few weeks back. Virtue ethics is much more about how you act. And in many ways, virtue ethics is what you could call empirical, because you can see, the scriptural thing, by your fruits, you'll know them. So by seeing how people act, you can understand whether they're acting virtuously or with vice. Anyway, I'm not going to get you into heavy theology and ethics this week, but we'll just return to this because Susan's nailed it. This is why she's on Straight Talk. Excuse me, coughing. I've been coughing quite a lot this week, and I'm actually in perfectly good health, although some might argue if I continue to wear t-shirts on a cold morning. I think what you do see, though, and just reacting to Susan's comment, the media are more often not running an agenda. They're trying to promote, advertise, rather than actually report. I saw it. I mean, we've got the Matariki weekend coming up. I don't have a slide for this. But I saw a headline, I think again in the Herald, talking about, is this going to become New Zealand's most popular... No, will be New Zealand's most popular holiday. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Some people, Matariki is very important. For some, it's not. But what struck me was the nature of the headline. It wasn't even asking the question. It was promoting the concept. And again, in some ways, it's not a problem if it does. I mean, personally, I prefer Easter than Christmas as, the holiest and most celebratory days of the year. But I was just struck how the media was promoting. It was not actually reporting, it was promoting. I just thought, that's not really their job. If someone wants to pay for an ad, go for it. But I expect the media to report what is happening and not happening. And again, this in some ways is advertising. It's trying to, in one hand, excuse Tories' failures, and on the other hand, it's trying to bully people. Sue's got it, and Sue's another contributor on Straight Talk. That's our Monday night show. Exactly, go and ask the women of Wellington. It'll be interesting to see, speaking with my former political hat on, whether Tory tries to run for one of the Māori ward seats down there, because I would put good money, there's not a chance that she would win a general seat now. To Rosie, I see you've come on. Good morning. Judith, lovely to have you here. Good morning, good morning. Oh, and we've got Adrian. Good morning. Deary me, coughing. Fortunately, I have a mute switch. Now look, quick update. When I finished talking with you last week, I'm falling to pieces here, guys. I'm falling to pieces. Actually, I just noted from Adrian, I put it up so quickly, in Switzerland, 28 degrees. Adrian, that's a way to get us all annoyed here, as it's freezing cold in New Zealand at the moment. But no, lovely to have you along the show. So, long and short, this was the New Zealand Chinese journalist Porsche Mau, the one with the flowers on the right, was basically taken to court without her knowing by the guy on the left, certainly my left, Morgan Zhao, and how, long and short, they used New Zealand's Harmful Digital Communications Act to silence Porsche. Porsche was talking about Communist China, was calling out behaviours of the likes of Morgan Zhao here in New Zealand, which is basically foreign interference. And as I explained on Tuesday morning, using New Zealand's Harmful Digital Communications Act, Morgan went to a court and got what they call ex parte, so only one side, got a judgment from the judge, strangely enough, and had Porsche silenced. I put her onto the Free Speech Union, and those guys have done a great job defending her, appealing the situation, and having it rightly overturned. So that's just a quick summary. But what it shows you, as I mentioned on Tuesday, is two things. And I want to talk to you about another piece of law which is coming down the pipeline that could also have problems. It shows you, though, this situation, two things. And again, I know Porsche well. I work with her closely on matters of foreign interference. One, it shows you there is foreign interference in New Zealand. People like Morgan, whether directly or informally, are trying to push the communists' agenda here in New Zealand. The second is they know our law exceptionally well and know how to use it. It was an area I hadn't even appreciated when Porsche got a hold of me and said, hey, I've just been served a notice from a court that I'm not allowed to talk about these issues anymore. I went, well, that's crazy. You haven't been to court, Porsche. You haven't argued your side. She said, oh, no, it says here ex parte. I had to go and look that up. So ridiculous. But why I'm drawing it to attention is another piece of law going through Parliament at the moment. And it's not a red flag, just a little bit of an orange flag on one part of the law. And I'll explain why after I knock back a coffee and try to stop myself coughing here. So this is called the Crimes Legislation Stalking and Harassment Amendment Bill. So overall, it's really good. It's addressing stalking in New Zealand at the moment. And I've talked to a couple of women actually recently who have been stalked and harassed. Long and short, I think now this is saying if there's 3 instances in 24 months, that can be deemed as stalking. At the moment, it's like 2 events in a longer period of time. It's looser. At the moment, it's very, very hard to actually convict anyone of stalking. The frequency and the time frames are such that it doesn't happen often. So the overall changes in this law make it better. The time frames are being tightened, and so obviously if there's stalking incidents, it's easier to capture. So a lot of good there, and I think particularly a lot of women are harassed or stalked. Excuse me. But within it, and I'll see if I can put the words up and you can read. This is just a section of the law. So I'm just sort of pausing because I'm trying to get the details right. But long and short, within stalking, they're actually adding in harassment, as you might expect, but also what they call doxing, where people, out your home address or, go harassing your employer and so forth. So all of these things are wrong. You don't want people doxing people. We don't want people harassing people. We don't want them stalking people. So the law overall being proposed is good. But within it, however, is just a few areas which make me a little bit nervous, and the text is a bit too small. I'll see if I can actually, excuse if my eyes duck away, I need to see if I can call the file up and read it a bit closely myself. Hopefully you can see it. But a lot of the language is loose, and that's what I'm trying to get to you guys at. So remember the Harmful Digital Communications Act was put down there to say, this was people doing nasty, vile things on social media and attacking you. And it was used, as I see in one of the comments, it's been used by this Morgan Zhao and the CCP, weaponized to shut down a journalist. But when I read the definitions around stalking and harassment, most of it makes a lot of sense. But there are elements here of, harassment is engaging in behaviours that's likely to cause fear and distress. A constable, so a police officer on reasonable grounds, can work out whether what you're doing causes fear and distress. And I just get nervous about that, not because I want people to be fearful and distressed. Let's be clear about that. So I just put my screens back up. But, most of us would go, of course, someone turning up to your house, following you to work, all of this is not good. We don't want that. But think about it, and this is why it crossed my desk. And I'm sorry I'm just taking a bit of time on this. I'm probably collecting my thoughts, but I've had a few people approach me who are pretty smart cookies going, well, this itself could get weaponized. If you're someone, well, even like within the Family First, we are often commenting on different organizations and people around what they're doing. We're not harassing them by any means of that definition, but there is a query of whether or not all of a sudden people, and it'll particularly come from the woke and the far left, would weaponize a law like this and say, well, actually, Simon O'Connor talking about euthanasia all the time, or Bob talking around drug policy and targeting it, say, the Green Party, well, that's harassing us, it's causing us fear and distress. That's where I'm trying to get to. It took me a while, didn't it? Fear and distress are such emotive words and are so ill-defined. And we see already in this modern cancel culture, don't we, that fear, safety is often deployed to try and shut things down. Oh, we can't have such and such come onto our university campus and talk to us because that makes us scared, we're afraid. So I'm just a little bit worried that the definitions here are just a little bit loose. And the other is, as a politician, or a former politician now, but when I was in Parliament, there were people who would be coming to my office or making contact with me just about every day. Certainly would come to just about every public meeting. And no one was, well, a few were very nasty, but by and large, some were quite obsessed with either myself or certain topics. They shouldn't be captured by this law. In fact, that's the second element of what you should be a little bit concerned around what's potentially being proposed, is that politicians, and again I'd say particularly from the left, think about the ones who are always running to media, claiming to be victims and unsafe. Again, a bit like the Tory whānau situation, trying to pull in points of identity to avoid them having to talk about the substance. But I'd be worried if that proposed law was used by politicians to stop constituents raising their concerns. Now, let's be once again really, really clear. We don't want actual stalking, actual harassment. As I say, people who turn up to political meetings and yelling and screaming and chasing people into the car park, completely off the... That's not on the radar, shouldn't be on the radar. But when you have language like this, and again, I'm sorry if you can't read it, you might have a better... My screen's quite small. If you can read it, when it starts saying that you believe it's causing you fear and distress because of what someone else is doing, I think it opens the door potentially for a lot more trouble. And again, you just think about debates and discussions you have, or for some of you, even the work that you do, if it's promoting life, promoting just causes, I'd say even promoting like Christian messages. This could be potentially, I don't want to over-egg it, but could be potentially used against you because people go, oh no, I find this harassing. You know, we've already seen pro-life activists, and I've forgotten his name, he used to stand on the streets in Wellington. I think the Free Speech Union's actually supporting him at the moment. He would stand quietly on the street with a sign, and people didn't like it. And he got arrested and I think even charged because he was just standing there with a sign. And I would say, you know, you could manipulate this proposed law in that regard as well. So anyway, I've probably gone on a bit too long there. Catherine nails it, I think, with another thing. When laws are needed to uphold morals, it becomes a slippery slope. Yeah, and I've argued before, when you step away from sort of a common moral foundation, you need more and more laws, more and more regulations. Carolyn's got it right, and it's exactly what I'm going to do. And Catherine also nails it around the the weaponization. I do apologise for my coughing. I really don't know what is going wrong here. Roberts nailed it too. I mean, this is about the Porsche Mau case. Again, you imagine being served with a court notice and you haven't even had a chance to have a say. And I think Simply Green's sort of right, and probably should have been the one hosting the show, because, quite right, it's just another law to try and, you know, slow down people's ability to talk and discuss. And I really, really want to stress, stalking in itself is wrong. You know, the way that we understand these things, we don't want. But what we see is a lot of our laws being weaponized by people to try and silence others. So that's sort of where I was trying to get. Hey, look, just the last couple of things. I said at the start, I think some sad news coming out. This is out of England and Wales. So it's not the United Kingdom per se, but the Parliaments of England and Wales are looking to decriminalise abortion up to birth. So it's already been effectively decriminalised, I think, to 24 weeks. It hasn't passed yet. It's still got to go further through the political chain. But why I thought I'd draw it to your attention is, well, I just think it's absolutely terrible. This is going to be a bit like New Zealand's law. Abortion right up to birth. It's going to involve, for any reason, by any means, anyhow. I mean, that should be exceptionally disturbing because, I mean, you'll meet a lot of people who say they're pro-choice, but when you delve into it and you say to them, well, are you okay with killing a baby because it's disabled? They go, no. Well, that's going to be perfectly fine, as it is in New Zealand, in England and Wales. If you said to them, are you pro-choice, but are you okay with killing it because it's a girl? And this is actually a cultural problem in Britain as its demography changes. More of the cultures there will look to kill girls because they want a boy. People go, God, we don't want that. Well, that will be perfectly legal in the UK, as it is here in New Zealand. It's just, again, it's very, very extreme. And also of interest, well, to me at least, is none of this is done, just like Jacinda Ardern with New Zealand's abortion law, it's all done in the cover of darkness, which is, by the way, the nature of evil. It's all done in the cover of darkness. So just as Jacinda rammed through our extreme abortion legislation just before the COVID crisis hit, and we were all distracted, this was actually done through another piece of law. This was done through some Criminal Laws Act, talking about X, Y, and Z, if you will, over there, and someone just slipped in an amendment around abortion. So underhanded and dastardly, but that's what's required of things like this. Speaking of dastard, and I hope you can read this, this is coming out of Australia, and I find it heart-rending. Basically, it's killing babies born alive, because, and you know, for me it's quite personal. I was the MP who put the amendment forward here in New Zealand to say, look, babies born alive through botched abortions, and we've had abortion survivors here in New Zealand, and we've had abortion survivors talk to us. We had Melissa Oden, the Forum on the Family, last year. That was voted down, as you know, here in New Zealand, but now Australia's ringing the alarm bells, and there's 2 points here. One is just how terrible it is, just this doctor, on behalf of our Royal College of New Zealand and Australian obstetricians and gynecologists, just doesn't seem to care. And remember, of course, the pro-choice, pro-death side are always very big about, well, you know, it's in the womb, it's the mother's, blah, blah, blah. My body, my choice, etc. Well, once the baby's born, it's now very clearly, well, A, alive, B, born, and C, its own body. But what happens, and I'm sorry to say this on, early morning, but basically just leave it in a kidney dish in the side and let's let it die. I mean, it's appalling and it's barbaric and it happens all the time. But the second point out of this is the Dr. Alicia Broom, I think it says, the head of the college, says, well, it's legal. So this is what they call legal positivism, which is the argument, well, because something's legal, therefore it's okay. And you can see how humanity's been put aside here. This doctor, along with others, is saying it's perfectly okay to birth a child and then just leave it, a human being, a little human being, and die. And I think for any of us who have even a shred of a conscience and heart would go, that's horrendous. I'm sure this doctor and others are the same who cry over, Greenpeace ads on television about the whales. But a little human baby, it doesn't matter. And why doesn't it matter? Because, the law says that's all right. Again, quite horrific, and it's what I term legal positivism, that simply because something's legal, it's now moral. That is not the case. Of course, slavery was legal once. It didn't make it moral. There was a time, actually, where we criminalised people because of their sexuality. I don't think that was right. So, again, there's absurdity amongst absurdities here, and it's just terrible. And I think look, I've got a lot of time for Simply Green. If it gets to the nub of the question, it is murder. Without any nuance, it is. And it's just very, very sad. There we go. Last one, slightly more positive. This is in Georgia in the United States. You might remember a few weeks back I talked about a woman she'd had, in her case, terrible blood clots on her brain. So it was brain dead, but was being kept alive for her baby. She was pregnant. And actually, I've got a picture. Her name's Adriana Smith. We should actually talk about her. So she wanted the baby to live. Her family wanted the baby to live. And so they left her on life support. And the little baby's been born. I think, if I recall correctly, the baby's called Chance, sort of like a second chance. So what an incredible gift, not only being able to, if you will, produce the child, but to have the child birthed. But tragic too, because the mother's now died. The life support's being turned off. Adriana's no longer with us. But why I thought I'd raise it with you quickly is most of the reporting you find is trying to warp this woman's situation to be a pro-abortion angle. Obviously, this is just a headline here, but this was from the BBC. But if you pick up most of the mainstream media, they're all saying it's terrible that this baby was born because basically the mother couldn't have it aborted. The mother, who was brain dead, couldn't get an abortion, they argue, because of Georgia's laws. Now, that's demonstrably false in and of itself. I talked last time, I won't go into it at depth, but ethically, if they were to have turned off the life support machine to let Adriana go, that is not an abortion. It's called the principle of double effect. It's quite ethically appropriate. Life support's quite an extraordinary thing to do. So turning off the life support is not an abortive act. It's sad that the baby would die if the life support was turned off, but that's a secondary consequence, not the intention of the action. The second disturbing element of the pro-abortion and pro-death cult is that they want to kill the baby. The idea that the mother's dying, because by aborting the baby is not going to save the mother's life, that's what I'm trying to get at. But the pro-death cultists want to kill the baby as well. And again, trying to use the abortion laws of the United States or the various states is just wrong and incorrect. But you can just see how it's a bit like, as I mentioned, with England and Wales trying to pass abortion laws, how Jacinda passed abortion laws here. None of this is done in the light. Most of it's done underhandedly. And there's a real nasty, dark side to it. A pregnant woman wishing to remain alive, her family wishing her to remain alive to birth the baby. But that's not acceptable to, as I keep calling them, the death cultists. No, the baby also has to be killed, and we will lie about the nature of the law. So I'm sorry it's a bit heavy, but part of what Solid Ground tries to do is educate or talk about some of the issues you will get none of. Of course, you'll get none of it in New Zealand's mainstream media. I mean, gosh, there's that terrible case up north of another baby killed by their whānau, it looks like, and there's almost no reporting about that in New Zealand. I'm not going to talk about that this morning, we're at 8 o'clock, but this is the stuff that, one of the reasons Bob and I do these shows is not only to draw your attention to what's happening overseas, but also to draw your attention to things in New Zealand, which mainstream media just will not tell you. Will not tell you. Hey, look, obviously, last little thoughts, daybreak tomorrow with Bob. Obviously, I keep doing mine on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so you always know from 7:30 we're on here. The latest podcast has just dropped. I sit down with Marianne Spurtle. We talk about autonomy and conscience, and particularly in the euthanasia space, and how ironically, it's all about choice, except the Ministry of Health and others want to force doctors and nurses to participate, force hospices to euthanize patients. So which is quite ironic. So we have a great talk there. Bob, of course, is prolific when it comes to Substack. He's writing away. I don't think it's now his latest one. It was the latest one last night when I put this together. But I've also written one. As you know, I talk on ethical stuff, but I also talk on China quite a bit. I just thought it was quite striking of what's been happening in the political discourse. So we've got, Oh, Rosie's, see, I knew as soon as I said it something was wrong. See, people on here are much smarter than me. There is no daybreak tomorrow. Oh, and Bob's just texted me. He's like, no, I'm trying to have a day off. Okay, no daybreak tomorrow. Everyone have a sleep in. Boy, that's the fastest that Bob has texted me for a while. So no, don't worry, Bob. I'm not expecting you to be doing daybreak tomorrow. But we'll be back next week. But as I say, I've got my Substack. You've got Bob's Substack. As you say, make sure you sign up and register for the Forum on the Family. August is coming up quickly. If you actually just want a quick teaser, these guys will be there.
Hey guys, I'm Israel Folau.
And I'm Maria Folau.
And we're looking forward to sharing our story with you at the upcoming Forum on the Family in August.
It'll be the first time that we share our side of the story with you in New Zealand. We're excited to tell you about our experience, how much it has strengthened our faith, our marriage, and we hope that you feel very encouraged by it. We may be there, we may not be there, but if we're not, we'll do an interview with Bob, and we hope you enjoy it.
There we go. So that'll be great. And look, if you haven't had enough of me this morning, or you want to hear Bob, because of course he's not doing Daybreak tomorrow, then join us from 5 o'clock tonight. We are doing political playback, where we talk about the domestic political issues here in New Zealand. I don't tend to go off on international tangents. So that's political playback at 5. No Daybreak tomorrow, Bob. You can have a well-justified sleep in. Guys, it's been a pleasure to have you along. As always, I look forward to engaging in the comments after this. For now, I'm going to take my little one to school. I hope you all, though, have a blessed, happy and warm day.